Hello and welcome to New Voices, New Rooms. I'm Wanda Jewell and I'm here with Betsy Amant, author of The Key to Love, a contemporary romance publishing on October 13th of this crazy year. Betsy is the author of more than 15 inspirational romances and a frequent contributor to IBelieve.com. Betsy lives in North Louisiana with her husband, two daughters, a collection of Austen novels, and an impressive stash of pickled flavored Pringles. When she is not composing her next book or trying to prove unicorns are real, Betsy can usually be found somewhere in the vicinity of a white chocolate mocha no whip. The Key to Love is filled with touch points, and I loved every one of them. A love lock bridge, a secret ingredient, love letters, matchmakers, Paris, fairy tales. Was it one of these that was your jumping off point for writing this novel? Or did you begin with the characters and build out from there? Betsy, please share your inspiration with us.
Yes, so actually it was a little bit of a few of those. I initially wanted to write about the love locks. I thought that was fascinating, very romantic. And so I had planned this book to actually partly take place in Paris with the actual bridge over the river. And I started kind of planning the book and writing it a little bit, and I had not gotten very far when the Paris officials actually shut down the real Lovelock Bridge. They called it an eyesore. They took all the locks off, replaced those locks with glass panels. And I just thought, really? Like right now you had to do that this year? So it forced me to kind of regroup a little bit. And I thought, okay, what can I do instead? And I'm actually really grateful it worked out that way, because I think this story actually really turned into what it should have been all along, where it's a Midwest bakery, kind of in, as the hero likes to call it, Nowheresville, USA, in Kansas. And she ends up having her own version of the wall at her little bakery that sells Paris French treats and goodies.
Yeah, that's terrible that happened, but that was a wonderful part of the story. And it's true that I've seen love lock walls lots of places since it started in Paris. I think there's one in Lexington, South Carolina, for that matter. So they are everywhere.
Yeah, it's fun. People had to kind of get creative, just like my heroine did. So.
And can you tell me about the characters? Are they people you know? How did you, I love Gerard. I wanted to know why she broke up with the lawyer. His name's Christopher, starts with a C.
It was Charles.
Charles, yes. I didn't know why they had broken up. But tell me about those people and I loved her friend who got married at the wall, and she was very different from Bree. Tell me about all those people and how you know them and how you came up with them.
Okay, so I don't usually base characters off of real people. I feel like that's usually a little dangerous for real life. But sometimes if I have a friend or a family member with a specific quirk or a really positive personality trait, I might kind of have them in the back of my mind while I'm writing. So let's start with Bree, the heroine. She is romance obsessed. I picture her, everything's pink and lacy and girly, and she's got the little aprons that she bakes in, and she is just holding out for a love story like her parents. She's got them probably a little too high on a pedestal, but that has been her inspiration. And partly that was why she broke up with Charles, the stuffy ex-boyfriend lawyer, because, as she put it, he just didn't make her foot pop. She wanted that love and adventure type love story like her parents, and she knew right away he wasn't going to cut it. So she is holding out for that love story like her parents, and Charles is a little bitter about the breakup, so he is now trying to take over the bakery by buying it out from the owners Bree is the chef. She's not the owner. And we'll come back to them in a minute. So he's trying to basically take the bakery from her, partly revenge, partly based on just financial greed. He's not the best. He's not the best. So that's Charles. Now, Gerard is our hero. And he is, this is a very much an opposites attract story. So Gerard is the opposite of Bree, where she is romance and fluffy and girly. He is leather jacket, macho guy, motorcycle. He is very love scorned, very bitter. Bree tells him one time surprised flowers don't wilt when he walks by. They are just total opposites. So of course there's that immediate conflict that was really fun to write, just the ways that they continue to contrast and butt heads. Problem is she needs him because he is writing a feature for Trek magazine on their little bakery. And all of that kind of ties together into how she's hoping to save the bakery and Charles is trying to take it and Gerard's kind of caught in the middle and doesn't really care until he does. And then it gets even more messy and fun. So those are kind of some of the three main characters. I think my favorite characters to write were Mabel and Agnes. So
they were great. And so I know they are her aunts, but they're also own the bakery.
Yes, so they're her great
aunts.
They
were funny. They were fun.
Thank you. They were fun to write. I almost feel like I can't even take credit for them. When I went to write their scenes, it just came out and I was along for the ride. I was just the fingers on the keyboard. They cracked me up with their antics. They are local matchmakers. So they own the bakery, but they've kind of become these little lovable, meddling, they call themselves the love angels, kind of like Cupid. And that is what their matchmaking abilities is what goes viral and is what makes Trek magazine send Gerard to write about the bakery. So they're a hoot. They keep the comic relief going. They're in everyone's business, but everyone loves them, so it's okay. And of course, they set their sights on setting up Bree and Gerard, which neither of them are very interested in at first. So that creates a lot of fun conflict too. And then you mentioned Casey is Bree's friend who gets married later in the book, and she's fun to write too. I like her contrast to Bree, whereas Bree is a little more rigid and a little more proper and everything needs to be in its place. Casey is more go with the flow, flexible single mom who is just very real and doesn't have those same expectations that Bree has for, not only for her love story, but just for life in general. So they kind of have a good dynamic throughout the story too. Casey's a little bit of a voice of reason for Bree. And it's just fun writing about Casey's whirlwind romance with her firefighter. And that was one of the ones that Mabel and Agnes paired up successfully. So that was fun. And now Casey and her fiance in the story, his name is Nathan, they are based off names, at least based off of some real friends who met, had a very fast relationship, not quite as fast as theirs in the book, but a really good friend of mine, Casey Herringshaw. She married her pilot. He wasn't a firefighter, he's a pilot in real life. And I just wanted to give that little tribute to them because I just love their story. And so that was kind of fun to sneak in there.
Yeah, that is wonderful. That would be exciting to be her and have that tribute. I also hope that one day you'll write a story. One of the aunts, and I'm sorry, I can't remember which one, kind of had a boyfriend they teased her about. Yes. It would be really fun to have a book about their story and what happens to them, because I really like that teasing and that there was somebody that, I guess because I'm older, I like when there's, romance between some older folks. So that was fun for me to read about and funny. So I liked it. Betsy, what kind of bookstore customer do you imagine reading The Key to Love?
I picture a couple of different customers. One, I think, is the single mom with the kids and just needing that break at the end of the night with a bubble bath, maybe a good pedophore or some kind of little French treat she can sneak in that she doesn't have to share. I picture her really enjoying this and kind of getting that inspiration of being able to hold out for a love story to come for her again. I've been in that position a couple years ago of being a single mom. So that's always one direction I try to steer my writing is for that niche readership to be addressed and to have some hope and encouragement. So I picture her, and then I also picture married couples, a wife who just wants to get that escape and just remember maybe some of those early romance days of her marriage and maybe rekindle some of that spark, and just get the encouragement of reading about other couples. And then I also picture my grandmother's age range. She loves books. She's been a church librarian most of her life, and just a clean read, slight inspirational or faith threads, not preachy by any means, but just encouraging. People of all faiths and denominations could appreciate and be encouraged. And I know my grandmother loves reading different books that just give that little bit of hope and encouragement, and don't have to worry about something being a little too spicy, at the end of the day. So
I imagine she's very proud of you. It seems to me that this would be a wonderful book to sell with a dessert cookbook and a travel guide to France. In these crazy Corona times, what might be other ways to pitch this book? Or do you have any ideas? Since people can't go out, it seems to me there would be some ways this book could be promoted as a, more than just a book.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think with COVID, we're having to get a little more creative with, some marketing and some placement of our books. And so I think one avenue could definitely be pitching the traveling without leaving your own living room. I think that's a huge necessity right now. I think people are reading more than they did last year in general, partly because there's not a whole lot else to do, especially earlier in the spring when things were a little more fresh. And so I feel like pitching the traveling without leaving your home element with these stories that maybe have other countries or other cities featured a little bit, it helps the reader feel like they're getting out even if they're not. So I feel like that would be one way to go. Also, there's couples who are kind of stuck at home with kids and not really maybe able to get babysitters, especially military families who don't always have family nearby to help babysit and stuff. They're not comfortable leaving kids right now with non-family sitters to go out and just keep their romance going. And so one of the things in the book is at one point, Gerard prepares this authentic French picnic for Brie. And I just thought that would be such a fun idea for couples to do at home right now with this book, is kind of focus on, from the book selling standpoint, is focused on that connection of maybe French picnics, French themed dates at home. The novel could kind of be put in with those types of even food sales, the croissants and pedophores and all that stuff. I plan to share my book we have a local cupcake store called Buttercups here in Louisiana that is fantastic. And I think she would love to just maybe put some bookmarks or some kind of little advertisement, at the counter for me. And so I'm trying to think outside the box in those ways, and connect with readers who maybe don't read a lot of contemporary romance, but they love everything French. I want to market to them and say, well, you might not like other romance books, but you'll probably like this one because of that French tie.
Yeah, those are great ideas. What do you hope readers take away from The Key to Love?
Well, a couple of things. I think the main thing is this is a story of identity for Brie. There's several other elements, but I think the main one is identity. And so with Brie, keeping her parents on this pedestal and then kind of learning over the course of the story what was really going on with them, it kind of knocked her sense of identity off kilter, and she didn't know who she was without knowing who they were. And, you know, as kids, we all can relate to parents maybe growing up thinking we see things a certain way and later finding out, oh, maybe things weren't that perfect, or maybe things were better than they did appear, you know, vice versa. But for Bree, her parents had passed away when she was 18. And so there's a lot of gaps that she had to fill in through these love letters in her mother's trunk. And there's a lot of secrets and different revelations I don't want to spoil, but through the course of that, of reading those letters and putting some things together, she realized more of who they really were and who she really was, and that that's okay, that it was different than she first thought. And that helps her really develop her expectations of love throughout the course of the book. And for a little while, I really loved this contrast. For a little while in the story, Bree and Gerard's roles swap, and she becomes a little more bitter and scorned and hesitant of love. And he's trying to bring that back in her. So he has the softening, and they just kind of switch places for a little bit in the story. And I love that. So I want readers to take away some of those same things. So just knowing what their identity really is and where that comes from. And as a Christian, I know that there's, you know, a lot of that in our faith, but is just as women in general, you know, where are we putting our identity? And is it in our kids? Is it in our hobbies? I just want readers to really evaluate that and come away encouraged and lifted up.
Yeah, and I felt like there was a lot of vulnerability in your characters, which I like to see. You know, I think that particularly in male characters, because our romantic lead, you know, he was had a very gruff exterior, you know, in the beginning, but over the course of the book, you know, he, you know, his heart softened and you got to see it. And I really like that. So often in books, I feel like men are short, they get the short end of the stick in vulnerability. You know, they're just not allowed to show that. So I really liked seeing that, not just in her, but in him also.
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually funny. I have an easier time often writing the male point of view in those instances than I do the women. It's like the male's internal struggles and those glimpses of vulnerability are a little bit easier for me to put into words. It's always the female that has me have to dig a little harder to figure out what's driving her. So I'm glad to hear that Gerard was successful in that way.
Yeah, it was. Well, so why do you think that is?
You know, I think it's because it's the unexpected. Because of what you were saying, it's so often the male leads get the short end of the stick, and it makes me want to really try for them and give them, I don't want them to come off just as a jerk, or, you know, I want readers to know, well, there's a reason why he's acting this way. And that's the case in real life. You know, every villain has their story too.
Right. Hurt people hurt. You know, that's what I've been hearing lately. And it's true, you know.
Yes, exactly.
So what do you want booksellers to know about where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing in October?
So I will be around and available for interviews, for book club meetings. I'm open to doing Zoom or anything with video, or even just audio if it's a phone call being conferenced into a local book club, or, you know, a multi-Zoom book club. Any of those types of things, I'm available, and I think that would be a blast.
And should they go through your publisher?
Yes.
Talk to Karen Steele?
Yes, Karen Steele at Revell. She's got all of my media kits and all the information you need for my website or phone and email. So I'm not hard to reach.
That's right. And your website is, if you don't see her website, it's right down in the corner of the screen. It's www.betsysaintamant.com. But don't put the period after Saint, ST, because it's not there. What are you working on next?
I am really excited about my upcoming novel. This one will be coming out next October, 2021. And we're still working with the titles, but it is a You've Got Mail twist on taco food trucks. So it's a little bit of a food truck war between the hero and heroine. A lot of You've Got Mail references. It's one of my favorite movies. A little bit of a secret identity thing going on. It's going to be really fun. I can't wait. I'm almost through writing it now. I've got about 10,000 words left to go.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so good.
Yeah.
Where's it going to take place?
It is set in a fictional town in East Texas. So not that far from me. I'm in Shreveport, and so we're really close to Texas. If I could throw better, I could probably throw a rock. But it's a fictional town called Modest, Texas, and it's near the real city of Tyler, just for reference.
Well, I loved that the town for The Key to Love was called Story, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
I actually searched to see if there was a real Story, Kansas, and there isn't. And also, what was the name of the bed and breakfast? The Gingerbread House?
Yes.
Yes. And that they put him in that silly room.
The red room.
Yes, that was great. That was fun. Well, Betsy, I can't tell you how great it has been to meet you and how much fun The Key to Love was to read. And I have to admit, I'm not a big romance reader. And so I'm so glad I was asked to do this interview with you, because I don't think it's a book I would have discovered on my own.
Okay.
But I really, really enjoyed it, and I appreciate every little twist and turn you took me on. Was so fun, and just a delight, from the food to the characters. Just every piece of it was a snack for my eyes.
I'm glad to hear it. Thank you so much.
It was wonderful, and I am sure Seba's booksellers will love selling this book, and readers will love reading it. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.